You're here today in the European Parliament to discuss the legitimacy of trade policy. What message would you like to make?
For the World Bank, the legitimacy of trade policy comes from the role of trade in reducing and ending extreme poverty. Trade can play a key role in eliminating extreme poverty, people who live on less than $1.90 a day. And that the World Bank sees trade as playing a critical role, as it has done in removing 1 billion people from poverty in East Asia over the last decade and a half, and it can now play that role in Africa and South Asia.
We've seen a lot of opposition to trade policy. Notably, we see Donald Trump being elected today, who was opposed to the TPP agreement, which would be involve trade links with Asian countries. We see TTIP under pressure between the EU and the US, also CETA. What sort of approach would you like to see the bigger, more developed countries take, the European Union, the United States?
And the effective functioning of the multilateral trade system is crucial for developing countries. And so we would like to see increasing emphasis on the stability of the global system. Countries are going to pursue their own preferences when it comes to regional agreements, particularly if the global agenda is not delivering what they want. But it's very important that those regional agreements don't undermine the prospects of developing countries, and particularly don't undermine the multilateral trade system.
People in America have shown that they're worried about losing jobs to low-cost economies. You mentioned that the cost of labour is so low in these countries. Europe, the United States, we just can't compete with these countries. Should we really open our borders?
Trade is a very important source of technology, of information, and of goods and services that people consume. It also brings challenges. It brings adjustment challenges, particularly for people who work in sectors that are adversely affected. And it's really a policy challenge to deal, on the one hand, to make sure that we can benefit from all the gains that trade brings, but deal with the adjustments and the costs that it also brings, and particularly when those costs are concentrated in particular communities. So that is a role for policy, to make sure that there is adjustment assistance so that people can find new jobs, new occupations, if they're removed by competition from trade.
We've seen a move away from the multilateral approach of the WTO to these separate regional agreements. Does that concern you?
The continued multilateral trade system is essential for the global trading system to continue, for trade to play this role in ending poverty. So we would be very concerned of any steps which undermine the global trading system. Not just the trade agreements and the trade negotiations, but the legal basis for trade. Particularly because when that system breaks down, it's the smaller countries that lose the most. The big countries will look after themselves. So we certainly do value the multilateral trade system. Regional trade agreements can be an important stepping stone to further liberalisation at the multilateral level. So we would certainly like to see regional trade agreements in that context, and would support them in that way. But we do want to see them contributing, not undermining the multilateral trade system.